Okay, so hi, my name is Elizabeth Smith, and thank you for your patience. I'm getting in my presentation a little late, but thank you for your patience. My subgroup was or is youth living in poverty. And this isn't just youths that are dealing with homelessness, it's also youths that have parents that are working 2 or 3 jobs to stay just above eviction, students that have to watch their siblings because their parents are working multiple jobs, um, students that are living in homeless shelters. A lot of different students fit under this category of living in poverty. According to the 2020 census, 1.6 million children in the United States are living in poverty. So that's essentially 1 in 7. And that's just crazy. We are, one of the most westernized, if not the most westernized country in the world. So that's sad. And then more specifically, poverty in California, and then even, in Los Angeles County. So Los Angeles County is home to over 66,000 people sleeping in the streets, in tents, or in homeless shelters. And then there's thousands more sleeping in cars and vans. And then from 2019 to 2020, the number of homeless youths increased 19%. And that includes minors aged up to age 17. So, minors that have fallen through the foster care cracks or instances like that. So in 3 years, increased by 19%. That's a little crazy. And then also, this has a lot to do with COVID, but from 19 to 2020, families experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles County rose almost 40%. So that has to do with job insecurity because of COVID or unexpected medical bills. And then these are the families that often have school-age children. Youths living in poverty, obviously for these students, it's more than just being homeless, right? Because it affects every part of their daily lives, every aspect of their lives. It affects brain development, emotional well-being, relationships with others, as well as themselves, and of course, school achievement. So children of color living in poverty, it's almost as if this doesn't need to be said, because we just know it by now. But children of color are much more likely to experience poverty than white children. So while white children kind of hover around 8%, Black children are almost at 30%, and Hispanic and Native American are at 20, almost 21. So that is just a staggering statistic as well. And a lot of that has to do with the opportunities that were not given to their parents, the opportunity for education, job opportunities. So in the classroom, so kind of like I said before, many aspects of living in poverty are outside of the control of students, and yet it affects every part of their daily lives. So their performance in school, their brain development, their emotional well-being, and then their relationship with others and themselves. Creating in these students a sense of self-empowerment could be the difference between success and failure for them. So I kind of chose 5 concrete ways to help students living in poverty from the Art of Education article. And I just really, not only did I really like these examples, they're also easy to implement, which is critical. So the first one is having high expectations. So it does a student an injustice to not hold them to a high expectation. So, in the article, the author kind of says students living in poverty need compassion, obviously, and sometimes they need a little extra compassion, but they also need to be held to a high expectation, just like every other student. So holding students to high expectations allows them to work toward a reachable goal. So 3 ways to implement high expectations in the classroom: to give them the opportunity to set goals for themselves, sort of like the self-efficacy, holding students accountable for students' expectations. I've heard a lot of students in my classes and teachers I've observed say that they let the students set the classroom rules themselves. I thought that was really cool. and then to be a role model. So share your own goals and your own expectations for yourself. Exposing students to new places and people. I really liked this one. So students living in poverty can often miss out on life. Their experiences are very limited due to their means and their parents and caregivers' means and experiences. So exposure of new places and people can lead to a stronger sense of empathy, compassion, and unity. So obviously, that's what we're trying to teach our students, right? English, math, history, science, very important as well. But we're trying to create in these students a sense of empathy and love and compassion. And so 3 ideas to try. Teaching students about different career options. So bringing professionals of all fields into your classroom. Getting off the school grounds, taking a field trip to a museum, theater, or botanical garden, or connecting learning in the classroom to students' real life experiences, excuse me. So building strong relationships. Obviously, this is of critical importance. That's why we're taking a class titled Building Strong Relationships with Students. However, this is a challenge with students living in poverty because they often face high mobility, meaning they move a lot, whether that is looking for less expensive rent, eviction, having to move in with a family member. So they frequently move a lot. And even if they're not moving a lot, we might encounter things like a disconnected phone or a parent working evening shift. So it's hard to get a hold of them. And then even worse, it's often the tendency for schools to misinterpret these symptoms. And they assume that if a parent doesn't show up, they must not care. So be a source of consistency, says the art of education. Let your students and families know they can trust you. Continue to call. Continue to try to get in contact. Teaching socioeconomic or socio-emotional strategies. Many students living in poverty have a hard time focusing in school because of everything that's going on in their personal lives. So teaching students strategies to regulate their own emotions can bring a sense of peace, not only to the classroom, but to the student in question. And they also build trust, respect, community, and personal growth. So I like both of these ideas. So the first one is breathing techniques. And there was a couple different breathing techniques, but they all essentially asked the breather to take a step back, regulate their breathing and their emotions, and reassess the situation. And then the calm down corner, students not in the proper mindset can be asked to take a few minutes in the calm down corner and refocus and regulate their thoughts and their emotions. And then the last one is all about creating a safe and positive learning environment. So it can be helpful to have specific conversations about not judging others based on outward appearances, especially with students living in poverty, because oftentimes they're wearing the same clothes. They maybe haven't showered in a day. So not judging based on outward appearances is incredibly important. And then 4 ideas to try to create a inclusive and safe learning environment for your students is build team exercises, modeling kindness, having mutual respect, and then sharing the importance of accepting others. And then this last page is just my references, but all the articles I read kind of at the end kind of came to this consensus that students living in poverty they're not different than any of our other students. All these students need compassion and caring and support and encouragement. Just so happens that our students living in poverty need a little extra sometimes. Yeah, so thank you. Now I have to figure out how to stop recording.